I'm tired of having to downplay myself for the sake of others because they think I'm too much.
We shape the world through stories.
We sacrifice authenticity for belonging.
Aesthetics without purpose is nothing.
Individualism is actually destroying society.
So disappointing because all of that narrative and the work to just fuck it up at the end.
Yeah.
This is Create What Matters.
Welcome to Create What Matters, the video cast where we explore creativity, conscious entrepreneurship, and leadership that makes a difference. I am Ale.
And I'm Leti.
And we are excited to bring you another conversation that we will hope will inspire you to create what truly matters to you, both personally and professionally. Today, we're diving into the powerful intersection of storytelling, representation, and women's voices in creative fields. In a world where our stories shape our reality, who gets to tell those stories matters deeply. Despite women dominating design education and creative fields at entry levels, their voices and leadership remain underrepresented at the top.
And we're really thrilled to welcome these two remarkable women
Welcome.
that have been changing this narrative through their work and shared project, which is the Women at Work podcast. As you can see, I am very much on brand today, I would say. And we have here joining us Ane Guerra. Welcome, Ane.
Thank you.
Welcome, girls. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
She's from Letra Herida Agency. She's a journalist, screenwriter, writing professor at Elisava, author who recently published her debut novel. She said it's small, but we want to hear more about it. It's a female perspective Western that challenges traditional narratives. And with over 15 years of storytelling experience across multiple media platforms, Ane brings insight into how words shape our world. Welcome, Ane.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Veronica Fuerte, which I absolutely love the name, founder and creative director of Hey Studio in Barcelona. Her distinctive, vibrant design work has attracted clients from small to big global giants like Google and Apple. And she deliberately chose a gender-neutral studio name to create an inclusive environment and has been breaking barriers in the industry where female creative directors are still too rare.
Yes,
Welcome, Vero.
Thank you.
Welcome and thank you for being here with us. These amazing women have created the Women at Work podcast. Now in its 5th season, amplifying the voices of creative women leaders around the world and providing much needed representation and inspiration. And Veronica, welcome again to Create What Matters. Before we dive into our questions about storytelling and power, we'd love to start with a question that is the heart of our videocast. What really matters to each of you in your creative work at this moment of your life?
It's a complicated one, isn't it?
I think now, like the last years, I try to give a space to my team to grow and like in a creative way, but also a personal growth. So this is my objective right now. Like just a few people because we are a small studio, but this is what I try to do. Yeah.
I think that as a CEO, it's really hard for us to let go sometimes of things.
Yes.
And then we think that we have to do everything. But honestly, for myself, I usually tell my team the less they need me, the better. The less I'm needed, the better, because then I can actually do my job.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
What does a space mean?
I mean,
short-handed?
I think because most of the time is my name, is leadership is like it's a space, like like if a voice, whatever. But at the same time, my team also have their own space and to give their own voice, So this is what I try to do, and also I think like what they learn from me is something that they are going to teach others. So I know because at the end it's a small studio, okay. So there is not an agency that you can grow in terms of different titles. So I know there is a deadline. So I'm trying to teach for the others, like also teach in the future. I'm not sure if it's okay how I explain it. Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you. Ane, how about you? Where are you right now?
Personal and professional life is somehow like linked and merges many times, right? So I was thinking about this question and I think right now at this moment, we all need to be very aware of how the world is looking, what kind of challenges are coming, what kind of preparation and resistance do we need to put in front of those kind of horrible waves that are coming towards us. And being very aware of our privilege and what can we do with that privilege to help others, to kind of give space at the same time to other realities. I think that is one of the most pivotal things that we can do right now. We must do, because things are coming and things are going to happen, and we need to be very focused, very conscious, very aware that it is a moment to be resilient and put up some resistance to all of those things that we are not going to be able to stop otherwise. We need to find communities. We need to build those places to be able to just unite, because individualism is actually destroying society. So I think that's this year kind of needs to be that, like that.
About unity and about putting like standing strong in the face of all of these forces that want to
humanity.
create
I don't know. We need to unite to be able to build something different from what they're posing.
And being someone that has worked in creating narratives and storytelling yourself for more than 15 years now, what would you say are the changes you've seen, both bad and good, in how women are represented and how these stories are told throughout the years? And from your personal experience, I think that these recent things that we have seen also, news and things like that, it's like, I think, as you said, things are coming and are going to change. We've seen changes in the last months. So if you could comment a little bit about that.
I guess it's been massive how the representation of women has changed since we were like going into our own professions up till now. I think there was this massive change in 2018, 17, when the Me Too movement came over and things actually started to change. But that was thanks to so many years of feminism and women and men and all kinds of people doing the work for that moment to happen and opening those spaces for this kind of change to happen, this kind of narrative. So now things have changed completely. However, I am, I'm not going to say worried, but I am a bit conscious again about what is it going to happen from this point on, because those narratives were still quite weak. They were not consolidated well enough to be able to kind of build over them like good pillars. It's more like, I feel like we're still standing in a bit like shaky ground. And I do believe that we need to still keep on working towards that, towards this kind of new narratives in which it's basically the representation of women have changed in so far as it's wider. There's not like cliche or stereotypical ways of portraying women in films, in society, in the way we speak. So now it's wider. There's more ways of understanding women, and I think that kind of variety and diversity, it's the one thing that we've been, I at least in myself, been appreciating a lot. But again, we need to make that solidify that kind of basis.
that position to make it stronger in the world.
I don't think that we have a base that's big enough. For example, now we're talking about technologies that scale these, and especially like within your field, which is narrative and understanding with AI. I think that we don't still have enough examples and enough work for people to start using AI in that way to get what really is representative of women out of it. I think that there's so much bias still behind all of that. And I don't think we're still represented in that front.
That's the point. It feels like we're changing too fast without giving it time to actually, make it a bit more solid. And then, because in Women at Work, we try to give a lot of like female names and role models, and we still find that there's not many of them. That young people that go into schools and universities don't have a wider representation of people in their studies. So it's like, it feels like we're overstepping and we need to go step by step yet. That's why I was mentioning the awareness that we need to take, because things are speeding up so fast. As Leti said, like with AI and everything, things are going to change so much in the future that we still need to be very cautious with it.
Yeah, I think it's good to manage the balance between speed, but the direction is the speed is good, but direction and knowing how you move is equally important.
And who's doing what and why. There's always reasons behind.
We believe that design is to influence, to create, and even manipulate one's reality. Where do you see the field of design still failing women and other underrepresented communities?
Yeah. I think people think that design is contemporary, modern, that we are like the top of the decisions, like, and it's not like that. I think we are like maybe the last on the queue. So I think we still have a lot of work to do. And thinking this mindset is part of our work. My work as a leader, but also as a person that is in the creative field. So maybe also with Ane, with Women at Work, with a podcast. I think we have a lot of work, and the persons that have maybe a little bit more voice, we have to make these projects like you, like this podcast. And I think it's step by step, because of course our audience is like very creative focused, but this is what I have in my hands, at the end is my effort. I can make it. But yes, there is a lot to do in design. There is a lot of women in universities, a lot, like 70% or more. But then when going to the more like decisions makers or more high profiles, we need more voices.
Of women at the top.
Yes, sure.
And I think that one of the things that we can jump into here is talking about how these they are the majority in design education and entry level.
Yeah.
But few of them actually reach leadership roles.
Yeah.
And what do you think are the systemic changes that we need to put in place in these studios like yours and ours for us to guarantee that women have the space to grow and the space to become leaders themselves?
I think design studios, agencies, places where design is needed. So people that make the decisions. One of the decision is to hire women. Women, I mean, is like, think about that always. It's not because that person is good. So it's good, but also find the person you are working with or person you are collaborating with. So these decisions, for example, at Hey, is natural, is organically, but we are all women. But also I try to collaborate with women as well. Sometimes it's not like that, but sometimes I try to force it. So maybe it's more like an exercise that I need to force and find like, okay, let's go too deep and find people. And maybe I need to ask other persons because it's more difficult, of course, but there are a lot. Yeah.
Ane, you speak 4 languages, have been working for the Olympics many times, and writing is a massive part of your life. Heck, you even have a book. And we want to hear about that as well. Doesn't matter how small niche it is, we want to hear about that.
Writing a book is writing a book. I don't know.
That is true. That is true. Definitely.
How important would you say our choice of words is in communicating about women?
What am I going to say? Like, to me, words or the choice of words just changes everything. And that is very curious because in English and in Basque, for that matter, we don't have gender when you speak. So it makes it much more malleable. It's easier to navigate, to make it much more inclusive. But Spanish, it is very complicated.
Yeah.
And that's been a decade-long discussion, more than that, towards how can we enlarge the language to make it fit more people inside. That's how important it is. If you look at the opposition that you get, that's how important things are.
Yeah.
So if you get like an institution like the Royal Academy of Language in Spain going towards you cannot do this, that means you're actually getting somewhere.
That's a signal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How we represent situations, how we name the world around us, it's how we see the world. And in the end is what the shape of that world is going to be like.
Yeah.
If we call something bad all the time, of course, in the end, we're just going to assume that thing is bad. That's what happens. That's how important it is. That's how stories work. We shape the world through stories. You've heard this many times. And it's just one of those things that to me, it's pivotal. How we look at the world is how we name the things, how we... Imagine if we had 5 million ways of saying the word love. people would love more.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But we have so many curse words in Spanish that people curse a lot. So like that's how we live. Like
shapes
language.
our reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why maintaining language is so important, because languages, especially the ones that are a minority, like my mother language, it's a way of seeing the world. When a language dies, it's a way, it's something that we miss.
Yeah.
It's like when a forest dies. So how we treat women through language, for example, when you say boss in English, right? You don't know the gender of that person, but in Spanish you need to say jefe, jefa. Assuming that already you wouldn't say jefe if it's a jefa. So it's just like how you present women, how you use gender through language, that just makes a whole difference. I had this little anecdote, story that I read once, that were like these teachers were in the playground, and when they were referring to all the kids, they say niños, all of them, right? So little girls, little boys would feel included in the name. Yeah. But then when they were in the school, there was this situation in which that teacher said, los niños, the boys, like get out of the class. And then some of the girls also stood up. And they were like, why is now only referring to them? And before it was referring to all of us.
Yeah.
That's how representation inclusion works.
Yeah.
It is very confusing.
Yeah.
So language just changes it all for me.
And I think that even when we talk about, for example, how we describe certain behaviors, I think that I have been called a person that's too aggressive, but actually I'm just being assertive sometimes. So if I were a man, sometimes I question myself, would I be named and would I be called the same thing? And in this, no. I would be called ambitious. I would be called straightforward,
determined,
A leader.
a leader.
Yes, exactly. So I think all of those, you're intimidating. That's sometimes what I've been called. And I'm like, I don't see any difference between me and another man that's in the same room. And I think that those differences are very tangible in a way of how we grow up and how it shapes us. I grew up thinking I was too much for a long time. And I told Ale, like, I'm tired of having to downplay myself for the sake of others because they think I'm too much. And I'm not doing it anymore. Like, for me, that's done. It's in the past. But I think that it's because I've been called this so many times in my life that you get accustomed to having to put yourself in a box. Or to having to diminish yourself to fit for others. To become small.
Women were forced to, like, become smaller to make other people feel comfortable. So you feel uncomfortable then. And that is something that's very assumed that you have to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, what I've heard in these cases is that we sacrifice authenticity for belonging, right?
Yeah.
As a
For acceptance.
Exactly. Even think back to when we were in a tribe. What was the main thing? What helps us survive? Belonging. Belonging to a tribe. Definitely. So now we are in this society where we might be able to survive alone, but our brain still thinks that we need to belong. Right? So we are going to sacrifice that.
Definitely.
But I think there's something to be broken there.
At least we need to challenge that. At least we need to call things the way they are. I'm not being too much. I'm being assertive. I'm putting a boundary here. Let's try to call things what they really are.
And as a follow-up question to your book, if you want to comment, what were the things that you made sure that you would portray? Or why is the choice of a Western for you? Like, what's the name of the book? Let's start there. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So, okay, the book is named La Maldición del Sandungo. It's in Spanish. It is a very bizarre Western.
Okay.
But I did want to, and the thing of the Western came from the publishing house. But I love the genre, so that's fine. And I really wanted to. I'm a huge follower of Ursula K. Le Guin, she was a writer from the 70s, and she was a feminist, one of the first science fiction female writers. Imagine writing science fiction in the 70s. Like, I mean, that was being too much, probably. So. She always explained how she was writing from a non-patriarchal focus perspective. She didn't believe in like having to fight to create stories, but having to collaborate to create stories was a much more fruitful path to follow.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I wanted to write my book being like a good example of collaboration between two women, two friends, to kind of solve a very bizarre mystery around the town that they were living in.
That's amazing.
And it's funny. I just really had a very good time writing it. It's very small. It's something that you can read in like 2 hours.
What is a sandungo?
It's something that I absolutely made up.
Okay. It's explained in the book, I hope.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that read it was like, "You're crazy." And I was like, "Sorry,
Honestly, like normal people are over.
I just had a blank page in front of me, and I was like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want." And if you're a fan of Bob Dylan, I'm really sorry. That has to do with the book.
Okay.
Amazing. Thank you.
Vero, I really like your work. I use it as an inspiration for my work a lot as well. Changing a little bit gears here, we absolutely, I tell people about all of the things that you do, even though we don't know each other that much. I am a huge fan, so I'm really happy to have you here. I love the choices of colors that you make. I think you are very bold in your design choices, geometric ways that you portray it and characterize your work. How do you view the relationship between visual aesthetics and expressions of power in branding and in visual representation in general?
Yeah, I think it's aesthetics and branding it's connection. It's 100% connected, of course, and it's not. I always say like it's about brands, not trends. Like a quote that I repeat myself because sometimes, as a designers, sometimes we go like too much on aesthetics and we forget like the main concept or purpose of the project. So I think is what Ane was saying, like words are important, like narratives are important. So how these narratives are shaped in a visual way. This is our job at the end at the studio. So it could be whatever. It could be a branding, a podcast, a space. I mean, everything. So yes, I think is very, very connected, but not different fields. Like aesthetics without purpose is nothing. It's just a graphic.
It's without a soul.
Yeah,
It's
so
empty.
so I think it's very important, like as creatives, like always, like justify everything and put your soul in all your projects. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Veronica, knowing that we all have been in these rooms where we are still the minority, can you share an example from all of your experience where you have had to make that choice to assert your power or authority or
many
even raise
times.
your voice when you had a challenging situation? And how have these experiences shaped your leadership approach or changed you as a leader?
Yeah. I need to say that these experiences were like many times ago. That it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that I will remember all my life. And maybe at that time, I wasn't like, I realized it like it was bad, because it was,
You didn't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
you normalize it in a
of
way.
course, and it was like 12 years ago. I remember my daughter was born and I was working like a month after. I work a lot because as a freelance in Spain is very difficult, that.
Ser autónomo en España.
Part of the
It's
class.
part of our, we need to work always. We don't have like these 4 months or whatever, 5 months.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was working and I went to a meeting, in physical meeting, with the father of my daughter because he is also a designer. And I remember one of the person of the meeting saying, "What are you doing here?" Only me.
Oh my god!
And you're the CEO.
And I said, and I was like super shy, like I was like at the same time with my hormones.
Yeah, the postpartum and everything.
Yeah. I wanted to be here, like I wanted to work.
Yeah.
And I remembered it now, like I at that moment, now I would say other things. of
Yeah,
course.
it's like
But I was like 30 years old and okay, yeah, I remember that. But the father was there.
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
She and also was a woman, I need to say.
Wow.
But why? And that was super like a milestone in my like something that I need to see back and remember that just to evolve and go further this moment. And also moments, of course, I think this is super normal in we talk about a lot, like in meetings and nobody looks at you, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm the woman, I'm the director, you know.
Yeah.
And these kind of things. And yes, and also another thing, just to finish, because if not I would say
Please go.
yeah, I remember that the first years of K, it was half of gender. Now it's like 100% women. But I remember because I always like give a lot of visibility to my team.
Yeah.
In social media, for me, it's part of our being transparent.
You want
and-
to create exposure for them.
Yes. It's fine. I mean, if they are agree, of course. And I remember that there were two men and me, and the pictures were like two men and me. So people thought that they were my partners
Oh, wow.
Wow.
because
Yeah.
men, you know.
Yeah.
Because you can only be
You
that.
cannot make
It's not
someone's
possible
wife.
like
Yeah,
to
it's not
have
possible.
What other role could you possibly have?
Yes. So nowadays is because we are women, and of course, Vero, and also because people knows me and there's different things. But yes, a lot of things happened.
We're talking about reminds me. I went to Web Summit a couple years ago when I actually saw your live podcast, and just like a small story there, we looked at this a very small keynote from these two German women about how to win deals and win money. But they gave this really funny advice around how you should do that. So the two pieces of advice which we found super controversial were try to make sure you go with a ring, just and the better the ring, you know, that was that is the impression that you want to give. And also try to have a partner, even if you're like a female CEOs or you have a female partner. Try to have a partner who is a man, because that will guarantee you money. And I was
Really?
aghast
Oh my
with
God.
that. But look, and this was the Women in Tech booth.
Yeah, remember.
And I was
Remember.
and girls, younger girls were like, okay, like taking notes. Yes,
Ring.
Please. No.
and
Ring, men.
Men.
Like going back to the 50s, 60s.
exactly. You have the better the ring, because you know that shows that you have status and you have a rich husband or something behind you to back you up.
And people say something about that. I mean,
Is it right?
Shockingly, no. But I was with one of my friends and we were just you know when just you don't know if this is real.
Right.
It's
It's
really
really
happening.
Is this real life? Is this real life? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of people don't realize how much effort we actually put into these small things.
yeah.
And men don't even have to consider them. Like what you wear, how you address. Those things are things that I have to think about. So I recently bought my studio. I used to have an associate partner. Then we shared 50-50. So I bought the studio. And now we're 100% women-led and queer-led. And it was one of those things that I had to think of about it, because I think it's the first time that I go into meetings also without that and without him being like the person that is with me to support. And I've seen many times him, and we talked about this. I had an honest conversation with him, which was like, sometimes he would just repeat what I just had said and people would listen to him. And so for me, it is a challenge now being a solopreneur in that sense, going into those meetings. And I have been doing this for a long time now, so I got used. But I think that men and other people don't realize how much effort sometimes we have to put into like how we dress, how we're going to speak to people, if we're going to be the only one there, and if we need support. So because you're not really heard still. And that really,
You know, like the voice problems in women are much more common because we need to speak louder and use a tone of voice that's much deeper to make others listen to us.
Yes.
Men listen to us.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those things that has a translation into real life health. So imagine, like, it's just crazy.
And talking about strength and talking about asserting yourself, I think that when we are leaders, there's no way of being a leader without being vulnerable. And that's at least my approach to it. And I am very vulnerable with my team. I always say, I'm sorry. I apologize for everything I've done. And we talk about things very openly. We say that we don't have gossip in the team. And that's a problem because no one has anything to talk about sometimes. And we wanted a little bit of gossip. But I wanted to know, what is it like to carry? Because your name is Veronica Fuerte. And Fuerte means strong.
Yes.
What is it like to carry your whole life, something like that, on your back and with you?
Yes, I think it's
That's a good question.
it determines you a lot. I think words, as Ane was saying, it's part of my identity. Of course, when I was a kid, there was jokes and like you're strong, you are not strong. But yes, I think at the end now you realize that influenced me as a part of my identity. Yeah. Yes.
Do you feel that you have had to have a lot of strength in your life? to
Yes,
face it?
many times. As also Leti was saying, you need to force like double effort of 3 times of whatever, 100%, because you need to be like there in meetings or with clients that you need to be like notice, and it means that you need to do an extra effort in how you talk, maybe with more determination, everything. So yes,
Do you allow yourself not to be strong?
sometimes this is something you need to be vulnerable, and I think it's part of my job as well with my team. We are like, if we have a bad day, we can say that it's part of our work. You don't have, we are humans. And it's part of our way of work as well. Yes.
That is beautiful. Going back to Ane, in an interview, you mentioned that life decisions often felt like they were made for you rather than by you. How does this perspective inform your understanding of agency and power of women?
I can't really remember when I say that.
It's a good question.
But I have a really bad memory. So, but it feels, like it was more linked to the fact that how your country influences your choices. When I went into journalism, I basically had no other choice because I was very much, the only thing I did in my life before that was reading and writing. And I went into journalism because that was kind of the natural thing to do. But at the same time, there was this huge economic crisis in Spain.
Yeah.
So, and there was a huge information crisis before that. So my life choices were made as in, I went into university knowing that I wouldn't have a job, that I was not going to be able to work as a journalist.
Yeah.
So that was like, that kind of is a setting that you've got when you get out of university. You know that things are going to be bad. So you need to do your own thing. Nobody's going to give it to you. So that is a scarcity mindset that you have all the time in your brain that kind of, it makes it very difficult to then enjoy your success if you have any. It makes it very difficult to understand, to be calm, or like to trust the future because you cannot do it.
Right, because you've been from the get-go, you knew you had to struggle, you had to find a lot.
And then when we were kind of recovering, COVID came. It was like, really? Mate, really?
Roller coaster.
Like another thing.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like there's a huge rock that's going to come towards the earth in like 11 years. And I'm like, we'll do something.
fine with
No
it.
problem. It's fine.
I can take it.
Whatever you want. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So you're always kind of prepared for what's going to come.
Yeah.
So like, then again, we were the first generation that we in Spain that we're not going to live better than our parents. And that was something that we had to assume afterwards when we were like, when everything was exploding on your face. It's like, getting a house will be very difficult. Getting a job will be very difficult. Nothing is, and we were raised following the same pattern. Like if you have studies, if you go to a good university, if you speak languages, you will be ace in life. You're gonna nail it. And it's like, actually,
No.
But even with
Throw all
those,
that away.
no, exactly. It's not.
There's no rule book anymore. Like,
No. So like you have to do your own thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And at the same time, it makes you very creative.
Yes.
But the struggle is real.
and very
Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, and very resilient, I think. Resilient and creative. I think also I can resonate with that experience. As being an immigrant, when you're also start your life from scratch and the doors shut down in your face, and then you have to combine creativity and resilience to be able to. Maybe there's not opportunities for you then, so you have to create them.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow.
Exactly. I just really feel like we all need a calm year. 1 year that it's calm and nothing like precedented times. I'm really tired of unprecedented time. I want precedents. I want boring news. Yeah.
You are also a teacher. You teach a lot of generations and younger generations. And how do you see that for them now? And especially like also talking about gender and how do you approach those topics with them? Because things have changed for them massively. If they change for you, for the ones that are coming out, it's like another wave of like inconsistency.
We felt that in the podcast that when we started 5 years ago, people were, and this is going to be a bit shocking, but people were much more open to talk about feminism than now.
Oh, really?
Yes, really.
Women kind of
How ironic.
avoid talking about feminism as it was something that's already like, oh, that's past.
Yes.
And it's not.
Like it's a trend in a way.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It was capitalized like a trend, and people were selling a lot of T-shirts and shit like that. But then,
You can curse it, fine.
thank you. But you know, now it's like, and I went into my first feminist group like 20 years ago in my hometown. That was really small, and like we've seen how this happens. Like trend goes up, trends go down. But feminism needs to stay because it's what makes us be here today, basically. The things for the new generation are not going to be easy, although I believe 100% in their amazing, huge creativity. Younger people are much more, in Spanish you call it espabilada. It's like they know how to do their thing. They know. So I'm like 100% sure they're going to be great. The middle generation, which is like the millennials, we are the ones that are like, yeah, we don't really know what to do with it. But the younger ones, the situation is not going to be easy, like the world situation, but they are going to be great. I'm sure about that. However, I did have this moment like a couple of years ago in university when I focus like my teaching in feminism a lot. Like I do share a lot of like not like politicizing anything, but I do put a lot of female references or female books, authors and stuff, because during the whole education, we've had enough of male references. So it's good to counterbalance that a little bit. And there was this person, a girl, that I always ask for feedback at the end of my lessons, and she was answering anonymously, but it was obviously, they were all girls. Yeah. So she was answering, I like your classes, but they were a bit too feministic. And I'm like,
is there such a thing?
how do you measure that?
What is too feminist?
Exactly.
You know, how old are you? I'm sorry.
And I was like, okay, that is making me feel a bit dreadful about the future, but okay.
I get.
So you get people and you get people. But yeah, it's a trendy. It was a trendy thing, and now we need to be on that kind of persistent path again.
I recently watched a talk because I go a lot to data viz conferences, and then in data we have a lot of bias. And then it was a conference that was focusing both on decolonial approaches to design and data and also feminist approaches. It was very interesting, a lot of amazing talks. And then there was the speaker. He was a man, and he was finishing, and he was talking about all of the mistakes he did in one specific project that they did for Google.
Oh wow,
where
that's good.
I'm getting there. So you know, when you're like nail, and then he talked about like the fact that they were all men doing this, so they didn't have they were representing Google Books, and then they were representing kind of like each island of the visualization was a country, and then they realized that the data itself didn't have a lot of representation of women that were writers. But they realized that many, like after the project was out, but no one even flagged it during the project because there were men behind it mostly, and no woman was in the project. And then for me, I was like, oh, that's so great. Finally refreshing to see a man actually talking about their mistakes. And then at the end,
I'm waiting for the turn.
Yes, exactly. There is. At the end, like right at the end, when he talked about decolonial approaches and feminist approaches to design, he quoted Manuel Lima. And I was like, you had all of the chances to talk about a woman here, and you fucking quoted a man. I can't with you. And if you read, I'm so sorry. I love Manuel Lima. He knows that. He's a great designer. And he's Portuguese, and he wrote a book, which is The New Designer. But he talks about it in like one chapter at the end.
Right,
He's not
there
an
you
expert.
go. See, oh God.
And so it was like almost nailed
That's
it.
so frustrating.
Yeah.
It was very much so.
Disappointing because all of that narrative and the work to just fuck it up at the end.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
so close. But talking about betraying ourselves, where do you still betray yourselves when we talk about the things that maybe we don't even realize? Like, what's your shadow that you still maybe?
Yes, I think there is still, of course.
Yeah, of course. It's a growing process.
I
Right?
think it's expectations.
Okay.
I mean, like high expectations. Like we were talking about, we need to be like perfect.
Oh dear.
I know that it's something I try to change every day,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still there. Like be perfect at work, at home, as a mother, as a family, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's we need to relax, and perfection doesn't exist. So this is something I try like to keep in mind always, and also understand that others, okay, teach that to other people and say, okay, if you don't get it, it's okay, because the mistakes is what makes you feel like human and like what people love, because you are going, if you find this perfectionism, you are going to lose a lot of hours and things, and it's not going to work, because it doesn't exist. So this is what it's always there,
Yeah.
I think perfectionism is for sure a big topic in these conversations.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this imposed idea, an illusion that we need to arrive there, but we're always going to lose that game.
Yeah, I think that is one big thing. Then still treating your work and body in a capitalist logic and overworking, not knowing your own boundaries, your limits, feeling guilty about them. I need to rest, or I'm not feeling great, or it's not my day for that, but you still push it.
Yeah.
That is something that we should change.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least I should change.
Yeah.
completely.
Yes.
But that is definitely. And then I still get very angry at things. And I know that's not good because
Why not?
like I don't think it makes room for discussion or anything.
Okay.
So sometimes people that have been in like feminist movements for a long time or stuff, we've been hearing the same things over and over. Sometimes it's just like, oh, seriously.
Yeah.
But then I know that's not a very approachable like position. So I would love to maybe be a bit more welcoming in that sense, as I know that, or maybe see that other people are not in the same space, or that maybe I don't know, make some more room for to be more welcoming in the feminist space, which we're losing people, so we need more people now.
Right. So maybe anger is not.
It is a fuel.
valid
It's a
emotion.
fuel, but you need to transform it into something else. It cannot stay in the anger, but
Like in a positive way, because if not, if you stay in the negative, your energy.
I don't agree with that actually. I think that anger is something that we have been taught that we should avoid our whole lives.
no, definitely, yeah. But like
For feminism, I understand
exactly,
your point.
I just put it there.
Yes,
in general, yeah.
But I think that, as you said, like I work a lot with anger with my therapist as well, because it's something that I think that I also felt that I shouldn't be angry at things. And I allow myself now to be angry at things. I understand your point of like maybe understanding anger and understanding it's a feeling, and understanding that and that emotion, it's something that you need to work it and then use it for something else. It doesn't necessarily need to be positive, in my opinion, as well. I think sometimes we should just break stuff, and that's fine, because we're allowed, and we weren't allowed to do those things.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to just allow ourselves to be angry at something, because it pushes us forward, and it draws boundaries.
Yeah, it's a fuel. To me, it's a fuel, but then you need to transform it into something a bit more constructive.
That's true. Yeah.
Talking about feminism,
Yes.
in life you can be as
Be
you
as you want.
absolutely happy with that.
So we're getting to the end. I would like to address your other podcasts as well, which are very happy and we're listeners and we like it very much, which is Women at Work. You literally give women voices and space. What have you learned about and what resonates with you when we talk about giving women space and taking up space? What have you learned around that? And like, what is something that comes back to you every time that you do it or every season that you do it, which is now in the 5th season, by the way?
Yeah, I think when you give a space, it's not just one space, you know, it's a lot more.
Many different spaces.
So this is for me is what I love about this project, because we don't know the numbers, but we know that we inspire not just one person, a lot. And this is, I think it's important, when we give space to a specific woman, it just opens a door to millions.
Yeah.
So this is a good thing.
Yeah. What I've learned, it's to me, it feels unbelievable that there's still so little literature about female design. So many names to be heard, so many different experiences and stories that is the story of design to still be discovered. It's just crazy. It's half of it. And then we try to reach not only white countries, but we try to go somewhere else. We try to go to other places. So it's crazy. The history of design and how you shape the world, it's so vast that we know only this bit because we've been centered in male white designers and artists for such a long time. That it's crazy. It's crazy how we just went all of this non-existent.
Yeah, I think it's part of what Ane is saying is, for example, we interviewed this season, Ruth Kedar, no? That she was the first designer of Google logotype.
Oh, wow.
And only a few people know that.
And it's
How is it that not common knowledge?
that logo stayed there for 16 years.
Wow.
It's part of, which is so long for a normal logo, but then going into Google, they maintain it for 16 years and nobody knew her name. And it's oh my God, you should be in every book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And regarding back to the original times when you created this beautiful project of Women at Work, what did you have in mind when you created the podcast
She will answer to that.
that still resonates with you today?
What is the thing I created? One of the reasons is because I felt very alone, in my profession as a leader, as running a studio, that was the thing that resonates me still a little bit now, and that's the reason why we created and I joined forces with Ane to make this project. Yeah.
And where can people find you?
We're in Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's it.
And that's it.
For now.
On Instagram.
And in
social
Barcelona.
media.
What is it's
Women at Work by Hay.
Yeah.
by Hay. Perfect. And where can people find you two on Instagram and other places?
My name, Veronica Fuerte, the studio, Hey Studio,
And
many things.
it's just my name, Ane Guerra. That's it. One N.
You're right.
She writes beautifully in Spanish all the time, and it's very inspiring.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You should follow both of them. Thank you very much
Thank
for coming.
you.
This was very
Veronica.
inspiring.
Thanks to you. Honestly,
No,
that was
thanks to you.
amazing. And congratulations for this.
Yes,
It's amazing. It's a great initiative.
We would love to have you very soon.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. This was Create What Matters. You've heard an amazing conversations today with incredible women. We'll see you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.
Bye.